Oh, hi. Didn't see you there. I want to do a video on something really important to me, and something that should be really important to you too if you own a school, and that's how to win white belt tournaments and why it matters so much. You probably think you know, but you don't. Unless you have been competing consistently, you don't. And we're going to talk about why all this stuff matters. It's going to be a long video, so buckle in. The first thing you need to know is why you should listen to me. You should listen to me because I've been Diamond 1, 90 LP in League of Legends, back before there was Masters and all this other stuff, and that was basically top 500. I've been Legend in Hearthstone, top 1000. I've been Legend in Heroes of New Earth. I've been Rank 1 Masters in Black Ops 2, 5.5 KM in Mar and Dota, top 8 Masters in StarCraft 2, 1800 FIDE rating in chess. Anything that has a competitive rating, I've reached the top in, really. Even in WoW, I got Gladiator with 3 different classes, my very first tier playing it, and I also got Cutting Edge my very first tier. Now, if you play WoW, you know what that means. You know exactly what that means. So, let's talk about how I did it. Did what? That's a good question. How did I convert this knowledge of a decade of competing in all of these different sports, esports, to Jiu-Jitsu? Because believe it or not, it is nearly a direct translation. If your brain can't comprehend that, I'm sorry, but I'm not wrong. Video games translates almost directly to Jiu-Jitsu. The only difference is instead of just doing this, you're doing all this. So let's talk about the hard part first. That's going to upset people. Buckle in, because this is going to be a long video. The first thing you need to know is the difference in a coach and an instructor. A coach is someone you are going to come to for competitive advice. I suggest, personally, you find someone at your school that loves competing. They don't even have to be a higher belt. A purple or a blue belt will do. Honestly, I'll even say it. If there's a white belt at your school that is obsessed with watching ADCC and WNO and all this other crap, talk to them. Because there is a small chance, not saying they will, but there is a small chance they will understand the meta. And the meta is crucial. Understanding the meta is what's going to make or break your performance. And we're going to get to why. If you don't understand the meta, you don't have a clue what you're doing, and you're probably going to get crushed in these white belt tournaments. It's true in the other ones too, but it's especially true in white belt tournaments. So, that's a coach. A coach is someone that understands the competitive aspect of Jiu-Jitsu as it currently stands. Your locals don't count. If your coach, your black belt coach, is not doing Worlds or ADCC, don't matter what they got to say about it when it comes to competing. I'm sorry, I don't care. You want someone that competes for this. Actively competes, not this once a year stuff. Someone that's actively out competing. Now, this may not be someone at your gym, but if you really want to win these tournaments, this is what you have to do. Because you need to understand what to train for. Now, we're going to talk about what to train for at the white belt level. It's pretty easy. But if you want to keep doing it when you get the blue belt and so on, you need to embed yourself with the people that compete. Because otherwise, you're going to get bad advice. Why? Why does that matter? How many times have you visited a school, assuming you visit schools, and you've been shown the most BS move ever that's never going to work in a tournament? I have. I'd say half the schools I've visited, I have been shown crap moves. Moves that are either suboptimal or they're just teaching it flat out wrong. And I hate to break it to you, but there are right and wrong ways to do certain moves. And your whole little, that's one way to do it, doesn't fly. That's basically just you saying, I don't know what I'm talking about. Because if you did know what you was talking about, you probably would have covered that in the class instead of just saying, well, it's just one way to do it. And if you're not, then you're teaching wrong. That's another thing I'll say too. You can't show 2 or 3 moves a day, learn 2 or 3 moves a day if you really want to win these tournaments. You have to build a game plan and stick to it. What do I mean by that? It means you can't just come to class and do the move of the day, and next thing you know, you're crushing tournaments. I'm not saying you're going to lose, but you're not going to be crushing tournaments if you're doing this. You need a week at minimum on your moves. Really, since you're a white belt, you should probably spend a couple months. So, what moves? What matters? And why do I know this? I know this because I have watched a ton, at this point it's 500 IBJJF matches, specifically white and blue belt masters women matches. Now, this is something else I should preface this video by saying. If you're a big guy who does steroids, stop watching this video. Because first of all, you're probably not going to understand what I'm talking about because you're dumb, because you have to cheat to win. And two, these aren't going to be moves for big, strong guys. This is going to be how to play the game if you're smaller or an older lady. First thing you need to know, guard pull. You're going to pull guard. Why are you going to pull guard? You're going to pull guard because it lowers the chances of you losing the match. It's that simple. If you play a video game, you know where I'm coming from with this, with tier lists. Let's say you play Overwatch, right? You play Overwatch. And I'm going to use some terms here. It may go over your head, so try and keep up with me. Let's say it's a 2-2-2 meta. 2 tanks, 2 supports, and 2 DPS players. That's fine. But let's say the tanks have to be shield tanks. So you pick Reinhardt, who is a shield, and Orisa, who's a shield. That's what almost everyone would play. Now, if you were to pick Reinhardt and Zarya, people who play competitive video games, if you pick something that's off meta, really off meta, and you're at a high rank, what's going to happen? You're going to get chewed out, you're probably going to get reported, and in a game like Overwatch, you will even get banned. You will get banned from the game for picking suboptimal stuff. So why would you do it in Jiu-Jitsu? Because your coach says so? Because your coach, your instructor taught it to you? No. You're going to do what is most likely to win you these matches. Now, it may not seem like a big deal, but Marlon, I wrestled, and I'm strong, and I'm athletic, and I'm better. I am better than pulling guard. Are you? Are you better than winning? Because I promise you, no one remembers me pulling guard in my matches, but they will remember these medals in my window once they're hanging up on a wall if I ever own a gym. People aren't going to go, did you win those matches pulling guard, Molly, or did you shoot singles? Because that matters. No one cares. No one cares when you win ADCC if you won because you pulled guard, which you probably shouldn't do at ADCC, or if you shot a single. So, you're going to pull guard. Now, why does this matter? I have the statistics right over here, and I'm looking at them. Now, if you go for a takedown, and it's successful, your chance of winning that match at the white belt level is mid 70%. That's really, really good. That is a really good chance to win your match if you shoot a takedown and you score. Unfortunately, if you shoot a takedown and it doesn't score, your chance of winning is really, really low at the white belt level. It's suboptimal, it's below 50%. So you need to ask yourself, when I'm in the gym and I'm shooting singles and stuff, am I hitting them every single time on people my belt level? Because if you're not, you probably shouldn't do it, because it's not going to be that good in a tournament. Because there's a big difference in tournament jiu-jitsu and gym jiu-jitsu, and I may touch on this later. So, the first thing you need to do, if you actually want to win tournaments, you care about winning tournaments, you want to pull guard. And your coach, your instructor, and everyone else around you is going to be telling you to shoot singles or do judo. Or first of all, stop doing judo, because no one's doing judo really at ADCC. They're wrestling. So if you insist, learn to wrestle, because that's going to translate to no-gi just as well. Now, you can do judo, but I did judo in some of my tournaments and it helped, but looking back, I wish I would have done wrestling instead. Much more successful. Pull guard every match. Which would have done that. Much more successful. Why is it more successful? Because if you pull guard and you land it, your chance of winning that match is exactly 63%. Now, if you pull guard and you fail, your chance of winning is still 53%. So if you pull guard, whether you win or lose that point, it doesn't matter. You still have a higher chance of winning the match. And that's because first action is a very big deal in tournaments. I don't have the numbers here in front of me, or on the computer, but first action is a big determining factor in who wins the match. So, you're going to pull guard. You're going to stop shooting singles. You're going to stop going for takedowns, and you're going to get really good at pulling guard. What else do you need to know? There's a couple things here you need to know to win white belt tournaments, and the list is pretty small. You're going to need to also know we're going to get to all of it. Break guard, side control to mount, and an arm bar. That's it. That is all it takes to get an 88% win rate in white belt tournaments. Guess how I know? Guess how I know? So, you're going to pull guard. You're going to get good at breaking guard. Why do you need to be so good at breaking guard? If you ask any black belt how a white belt tournament goes, they're going to tell you the same thing. There's a struggle, a really, really bad takedown usually, because no one likes pulling guard in white belt tournaments. There's going to be a struggle, there's going to be a fall, and there's going to be a scramble. There's not going to be any knee slices or any of that crap usually. It's going to be a scramble, and then you're going to end up in side control, guard. That's it. There is no fanciness in white belt tournaments. It's really kind of sad. It's like role-playing Jiu-Jitsu more than anything. So, you have to get good at breaking guard because so many matches get stuck there at the white belt level. My advice to all my friends when I see them at tournaments is don't get stuck in guard. Just stand up. Just stand up and get knocked over, but you can't get stuck in guard. So that's it. You're gonna get really good at breaking guard. There's one way you should be breaking guard in the gi, which is grabbing the lapels to bait the other hand out. So you can grab that hand, and then when you do, you can go to stand up. And there's a good chance you'll get swept. That's fine. Danaher talks about this. We're going to get to maybe instructionals in this too. That's the only way you should be breaking guard in the gi. No gi, I haven't looked at the numbers, so I couldn't tell you. But you got to get a breaking guard. Passing the guard, don't even worry about it. Sure, breaking the guard is technically a part of passing the guard. But when people say passing the guard, I think we can all probably agree they're talking about passing open guard. You don't need to worry about that too much. There's very little open guard play in white belt tournaments because it's all coming at you. The third thing is you've got to get really good at going from side control to mount. But Molly, I do steroids. I'm just going to rip a Kimura. Chances are you aren't, because I've seen the numbers, and not only do they not happen that often for masters women, but their success rate is actually pretty low. And something you need to keep in mind in white belt tournaments is over half of all submissions that are attempted, result in that person ending up in a submissive position. So I guess you would say a non-dominant position. I don't know the word for that. But the person attempting the submission will be in a bad position, and they'll get scored on even. So you need to get really good at transitioning from side control to mount, because that's where you want to be. Honestly, even half guard's better. Why there? Because I don't know. I don't know. I've looked at the numbers, and when people get people mounted in white belt tournaments after the minute 30-second mark, they never get off. I think it has to do with everyone blowing their energy load right at the start. Half guard's the same way. If you can get half guard in a white belt tournament, that's usually it. You can usually win the match, honestly. That's what you need to know. You don't even really have to be good at holding mount. Honestly, you can usually just lay on people, and that's enough. And the last thing you need to know is the armbar. You need to get really good at the armbar, because the armbar is the only submission with over a 50% success rate in white belt tournaments. This is so important. And when I say armbar, I'm talking armbars from mount. And if you want to be really cool, you need to be doing them from S mount because it's safer. And we're going to talk about being a conservative versus aggressive roller in a little bit. So, the armbar is the only submission you need to be worrying about. But Molly, what about the rear naked choke? Yes, the rear naked choke is very good in no-gi. It has a very high success rate, but you don't need to worry about it because I've looked at the numbers, and when you get someone's back in a white belt tournament, you've got an 87% chance of winning that match if it happens after the 1 minute mark. If it happens before that, you almost always win. 87% chance of winning the match if you take someone's back after the 1 minute mark if you're a master's woman. With those numbers, you don't even really need to be drilling out the rear naked choke. And if you're doing gi, you shouldn't be rear necking necketing people anyway. You should be doing the bow and arrow. I don't know why. This is just what the numbers say. The bow and arrow is way more successful than the rear. I guess just probably because it's easier to hit. The lapel and kimura, lapel chokes, are also good to know, but you shouldn't rely on them because you will burn time. It's good to burn time if you're ahead in points. We'll get to this. But you should not rely on lapel chokes to win you matches. You should rely on points. And we're going to get to this.
But Molly, I got a level X black rash guard. I'm a level black.
And I'm a submission hunter. No, you're not. Shut up. You're winning tournaments is what you are. You're a medal hunter. Are you a submission hunter? Or are you a medal hunter? That's what this video is for. This video is for people who care about winning, not people who care about impressing other people. So, that's what you need to know. You need to know how to pull guard. You need to know how to break the guard, because when you pull guard, there is a chance you may end up in someone's guard. You never know. But you don't want to get stuck there, because when you get in someone's guard, that's usually it for the match at white belt matches. Unless you know how to break guard really well. Breaking guard is pretty easy in white belt tournaments, I personally feel like, because I took the time to learn how to do it right. And I didn't just learn how to break guard any way that was just shown to me. I looked up the way people are doing it at the highest level. There's only one way, really, people are doing it at the highest level. And I told you that. You can go look it up yourself. Now, this brings up a really good thing for me to bring up here that I skipped over and I shouldn't have. What is the difference in a coach and an instructor? A coach is going to be that competitive person in your school that you talk to about competition. This is the person you're going to ask, what are people doing in tournaments right now? They may teach you something you don't have a clue about, like K-guard. ADCC is coming up and you're going to see certain things come September, where I am competing. You're going to see a lot of things being spammed. You're going to see a lot of arm drags. You're going to see a lot of elbow passes. You're going to see a lot of K-guard, and you're going to see a lot of 50-50. You're going to see a lot of body locks. How do I know this? Because I watched the pro scene with a microscope. My black belt instructor does not. However, once I know what I want to learn, I go to my instructor for the technique. So you go to your coach to learn what to do, and you go to your instructor to learn how to do it. It is crucial that you have an instructor, not a coach, but an instructor that teaches in a manner that you learn well from. Fortunately, I'm moving soon because I have found the perfect instructor for me. The way he explains things, the way all the instructors here explain things is perfect. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to find a coach here. That's fine though, because I tend to do a good job finding out for myself. But the point, I'm getting a little off topic here, which is you need to go to your instructor to learn how to do these things, not the competitive person. Once you know the name of the move and how it's done, I could go to my instructor and say, how can I pass if someone's got me in their closed guard, how can I do it grabbing their lapels and holding their hand? I would go to my coach and find out what move to do, and then I'd go to my instructor and ask him, can you show me how to do this so I can see all the details? That's how that works. The next most important thing, playing guard. Playing guard is incredibly hard. I suggest you don't do it. I suggest if you get someone in your guard, you do a hip bump sweep, and if that doesn't work, you just bulldog them. You need to get this person on their butt. You have to get them on their butt and on their back. And if you can't, you've got to get out of the guard, because chances are you're not going to like this. A lot of people aren't going to like this, but if you try a submission from closed guard, it's over 50% chance that you're going to lose that guard, and then now you're going to be in side control. If you don't believe me, just go to YouTube and put in White Belt Naga. Go to White Belt Naga and just watch a couple matches. I've watched hundreds of IBJJF matches over this, so I know what I'm talking about here. Watch them, and what you're going to see is when people try these inside arm bars, these closed guard arm bars, they're going for it, they get the arm, they pull their legs over, oh no, I lost my guard, and now they're in side control because they grab that leg and just whoop, and now you're on bottom. And guess what? People are not good at getting out of bottom side control in white belt matches. They're not good at finishing people in side control, but they're very good at getting people there. So if you're going to play guard, you have to be very good at sweeping people. You do not think you're going to submit someone from closed guard, because you're not going to do it. It's just not going to happen. But Molly, I did it. No one cares. No one cares that you did it or you saw it one off time or a dozen times, a billion times. I don't care because I've looked at the statistics. I've watched enough matches and took notes on what's happening in these matches to know, like, see, I have the charts. I know what does and doesn't work. And I've logged it, and I've logged what time these submissions happen and everything. And it's just clear as day, honestly. You can't really submit people from closed guard. If you have someone in your closed guard and you're up on points, it's good to keep them there. We're gonna get to that. But don't think you can place closed guard. It's very technical, and the reality is to play closed guard, you have to have a really good sense, I feel, of when you're about to lose it. Because if you don't realize when you're about to lose it, you're going to lose the position. And you're going to have so many times where your coach is yelling at you, arm bar, across the center line. Don't listen to them. Because your coach wants you to get that submission. Your coach wants to look really cool in front of all the other coaches and see you do a submission. What you want is that medal. You want that first place. To do that, we're going over everything you need to do that, because there's a lot. You could just go with your jiu-jitsu, sure, but there's a lot of other stuff you can do too. Next, the first 30 seconds of a match is almost always going to determine who wins. And if you've played League of Legends or Heroes of the Storm, or I also got really high ranked, or any other of these MOBAs, or even Overwatch, you know exactly what I'm talking about. These matches can last an hour in these MOBAs, and 90% of the time you know who's going to win 90% of the time by the first 5 minutes of the match. Jiu-Jitsu is no different. Most submissions, blue belt for example, blue belts are about 400% more dangerous in the first 30 seconds of a match. Why do you think that is? I'm going to go on a little tangent here. I'm going to warn you, so you may want to skip ahead. The first 30 seconds of a match are super dangerous for blue belts because of heel hooks. That's it. I'm looking at the numbers here, and almost all submissions in the first 30 seconds of a match are either arm bars or ashi of some variety. So what's happening here? Why is this happening? Because there's generally a few types of schools. There's schools that never allow ashi. Ashi is heel hooks and ankle locks and all the stuff involving submitting someone using their feet that you can't really do in a white belt tournament. And then you got like 10th Planet, they're doing it from day one, and then you got schools that have their little group that kind of do it together. Maybe like they all the higher belts. What do you think is going to happen to someone that trains at Alliance in a no-gi match versus someone from 10th Planet? I'm willing to bet you if we broke these numbers down even more, we would see all these early submissions, these early 30-second submissions from Ashi, our 10th Planet people, 10th Planet goons, completely messing up the Gracie Bajas and the Alliances of the world, that we can't train heel hooks, it's dangerous because I don't know how to explain it. That's what's happening. Because think about it. Have you ever trained leg locks? Because if you haven't, let me tell you what happens your first time. We're rolling, you give me a maybe 50-50. The whole time I'm doing this. And everyone else does it too, is they're watching like a hawk. And they're waiting, and then they tap. The very second that heel starts to roll. For free? Sorry, for free. So that's what's happening. Is you have these schools that have never done it before, and it's getting ripped apart. Now this translates just as well to white belt tournaments. How? Because you have schools that never train takedowns, and they never train guard pulling. How many times have you been shown guard pulling at your school? Probably pretty darn low. How many times have you been taught how to actually pull guard? How many times when you're rolling do you pull guard with intent, or do you just kind of hold them and sit down? You doing that in tournaments? No. So you need to get really good at pulling guard, because what's going to happen is you're going to go up against schools that train a lot of takedowns. You may go up against a wrestler. There's so many variables you don't know about. guard pulling is universally a good move because until you get to higher blue belt, and when I'm talking like PANS level, and I saw a lot of it at the IBJJFs in Texas, that also people were really good at countering guard pulls. But most places, normal level, white belt, blue belt matches, your locals, your Nagas, your new breeds, they're not going to know how to deal with a proper guard pull. So get good at pulling guard because those first 30 seconds of a match are going to determine everything. Because we've talked about this, if you score that takedown, your chances of winning are really high. If you fail it, your chances of winning are now in the negative. If you pull guard, it immediately goes up a plus 3%, even if you fail. So you're going to pull guard. And that's something else to keep in mind too. I know that I kind of glossed over that, but that's very important that if you're a blue belt, you take the time to learn proper Ashi defense, because if you do not, you're going to get ripped apart in these tournaments. Do not compete in a blue belt tournament until you at least have a basic understanding of how to get someone off of your legs. I'm not saying you have to memorize the entire Get Off My Leg Gringo by Craig Jones on bjjfanatics.com, but I am saying if you don't know how to kick someone off your legs, you're going to look like a fool in a lot of these tournaments when you go up against someone in 10th Planet. It's also a good way to throw matches if you have to for whatever reason. So, now that you know the first 30 seconds of a match are incredibly dangerous, you need to also know that the first, make sure I give you the right number here, I'm looking at the chart, 2 minutes of a match. The first 2 minutes of a match are where 90% of all submissions happen. And the next 3 minutes is where, I'm sorry, I just lied to y'all. Around 80% is the first 2 minutes. I'm getting a phone call, I'll take it later. And the 3 minutes of the first match is where 90% of submissions happen. Out of 250 matches, there were 23 submissions. I can't believe I counted that fast. 23 submissions after the 3 minute mark. That is very low. Block this phone call? Sorry? That's really low. Why is this important? You need to understand how to change your energy levels throughout the match. And if you can learn how to adjust your energy levels, adjust being a conservative and aggressive roller throughout your match, you're going to notice you're winning a lot more matches than your peers. What do I mean by that? Well, as the match goes on, there's less and less submissions, and there's obvious and not so obvious reasons why. The obvious reasons are going to be the longer the match goes on, the less energy you're going to have. And another less obvious reason, I just got a voicemail, another less obvious reason is you're going to learn what your opponent does. Because in white belt tournaments, people generally have one good guard pass in them. They have one guard pass they know, and if it don't work, you lose. That is why it's so critical you learn to grab the lapels and the arm, because you can spam this guard pass over and over, and it takes so little energy if you're doing it right. Most guard passes at white belt level take a lot of energy. So, at the start of a match, because it's so dangerous, and this is where all the submissions are happening, you're going to roll conservatively. Why are you rolling conservatively? But Molly, if I roll conservatively, I can't get submissions. Duh! You're not going for submissions unless you're confident you can hit them. We're about to get to that. I need water or something. A long video. You're going to win on points because 77.6% of all white belt matches for Masters women are won by points. Very few are won by submissions. And here's another fun fact. 40% something, I'm sorry, forgot the number, I'm normally pretty good about this stuff. 40% of the time you attempt a submission of any variety, you can break this down to see specifically which submissions are bad to attempt. But 40% of them, result in you getting points scored on you. How bad is that? How crazy is that? So when you attempt a submission, you have a few times you need to do it. And this has to do with changing your energy levels. Personally, this is how I've done it and how I approach things. Who here's played StarCraft 2, where I was top 8 masters? In StarCraft 2, there's generally a few ways to play, and I'm going to try to explain this. StarCraft is a strategy game. You control a military, and you're fighting another military. 3 main strategies. You bum rush them, you cheese them, where you take everything you got, and you throw it at the enemy, and you hope you win early, because you're not building workers, you're not putting money in your workers, your economy, you're putting money in your military early on to try and get an early win before they have defenses. There's the mid-level player. These are the people who try and win in the middle of the game, and it's usually a mix of both. They build up a little economy, and then they attack you, and then these are the fun matches. And then you have the people out there like Avilo. I will never forget you, Avilo. 3-hour matches. These are the players who are going to build the biggest defenses you can possibly imagine, and they're going to destroy all the economy. They're going to build bases everywhere and take all the economy. Why are you telling me this? I'm telling you this because it directly translates to Jiu-Jitsu matches. Because, not so much white belts, I'm going to go off on a little tangent here. Generally 2 types of way to play. There's inside players and outside players. Outside players generally rely more on ashi. Now this isn't always true, but I have watched enough to know that inside players are more heavy, upper body, pressure players. So if you're strong and you do steroids and you're a cheater, you probably want to do a heavy top game. I do a heavy top game. I don't cheat, but I do a heavy top game because it's more methodical and it's slower. And it's more conservative, and that's important in white belt tournaments. Now, if you want that early win, remember how we said for first 30 seconds of a match, blue belts are 400% more dangerous? It's because of ashi. Sure enough, it's a faster play style. Outside passing, agility passing is faster. Sure enough, those outside passes lead to more ashi. Those lead to your Imanari rolls. They lead to the 50-50 rolls. Thank you, Ryan Hall, for teaching me that. If you ever see this. Those are going to be your agility passes. So if I go personally, now that I'm a blue belt and I can do it, and if it was allowed in a match, if I went up against a girl from Alliance or a Gracie school, my first thought is, how can I get this girl's legs entangled with mine? How can I get this girl in the 50-50 position where she has less knowledge than me? This is something else you need to keep in mind too. If you train at 10th Planet, you need to use that advantage to yourself. Don't allow these Alliance and Gracie people force their inside game on you. Try and get them in 50-50 if it's allowed in a match, because you're going to have an advantage there. You're going to have to win these matches a little bit earlier, because that's just the way it is. That's not always the case. It's not always the case, but this is usually the case. It's the majority of the cases. And we do not care about the little outliers. What we care about are the big percentages. What is the majority? Because you always want to do what is the highest percentage thing for you to win the match. So, back to changing energy levels. It's important to know, when you go into a match, if someone's going for your legs, there's a good chance they're going to try and win this match early. It's also important to know if they go for your legs, there's a good chance their upper body game is not going to be very good. This is assuming it's a white or blue belt tournament. If this is if you're one of those Alliance or Gracie people. So, as the match goes on, you're going to change your energy levels. At the start of the match, me personally, the very first thing I'm doing is I'm blowing a huge load to try and get a dominant position. Because I realize if I am going to score a submission, I have to do it before about the 2:30 mark. If I am not in S mount, which is a modified version of mount, if I am not in S mount by the 2:30 mark, I'm not trying a submission. I don't care if Gordon Ryan and Craig Jones and Nicky Rod and Jesus himself is over there saying, Molly, armbar now. I'm probably not going to do it. That's a lie. If Nicky Rod tells me to armbar, I'm going to armbar. But Most times, 9 times out of 10, if someone tells me to go for a submission after the 3-minute mark, it's not going to happen, assuming this is a 5-minute match, because I know the chances of that finishing the match is low. 250 matches, I'm seeing 250 matches, only 9 of them ended in arm bars after the 3-minute mark. That is really low. And even more so, almost all these arm bars, you need to understand, are happening from top. Closed guard arm bars are tier 3. And there are tiers to these moves. Up very high, you have the arm bar, along with the rear naked choke and bow and arrow choke, but you shouldn't focus on the bow and arrow and the rear naked choke, because as I've said, if you can get someone's back, you're probably going to win the match anyway. So you're going to focus on just the arm bar. That's on its tier. These are on tier on their own. These are S tier. The next is the lapel and kimura and the Americana. They fit in here. These are your A tier moves. These are moves you can rely on before the 2-minute mark. Make sure I'm not lying to you guys. Before the 2-minute mark to go for it. So let's say you're in a position to try a lapel choke, but you know you're not going to lose the position, then try it. Same with the kimura. If you've got someone in side control and you know you've got them pinned down well, you can attempt a kimura, but don't blow your load on it. Do not ever blow your load attempting a submission unless it's the very, very end of the match and you're very, very up on points. We'll get to the end of the match here in a second. I think that's up next. So, this is what you need to know about changing energy levels. And I know I'm kind of rambling about this, but it's very important you understand that as the match goes on, the energy levels of your opponent is going to get lower. So me personally, throughout the early parts of the match, I never really allow myself to go above 70%. I will blow my load to make sure I end up in a good position at the start, but after about 30 seconds of tussling, I pull it back. I'm pulling it back a little bit more, because the other person, the closer they get to a submission, the more they're going to blow their load. And a good example of this is my second IBJJF match ever. And this has come back to the difference in a coach and an instructor. My second tournament match, pretty sure it was my second. This one is actually on the channel. She gets me in close guard. She's on bottom and she attempts to cross collar choke me. That's a rookie move. That is a rookie move. And her coach told her to do it. Why do all of the instructor, excuse me, because that's not a real coach. Why do all these instructors tell their students to do cross collar chokes in tournaments? Why do you think? I'm gonna tell you why, because I know. I'm gonna give you a second to guess. Why do you think all these instructors are telling people to do cross collar chokes in tournaments? Answer's in? All right. The answer is because there is a difference in gym jiu-jitsu and tournament jiu-jitsu. Tournament jiu-jitsu, you will be walking away sore for days and days and days, maybe even weeks, depending on how the match went. My knee is still banged up, and it's been 2 weeks from this tournament against a purple belt, and it went really well, and it was really fun. But the point stands that there is a massive difference in tournament jiu-jitsu and gym jiu-jitsu. What do I mean by that? Well, in a gym, if you attempt a cross collar choke on me, I'm tapping, because I'm coming in the next day and I don't want to be like this for 2 weeks. Now in a tournament, I will walk around like this for 2 weeks after, if that's what it takes for me to win the gold medal. People don't understand that cross collar chokes are actually really technical. It's really not easy to hit, and all these instructors, these black belt instructors, don't understand this, because they have the technical ability to execute these moves, and they think the white belts are doing it because people are tapping, but they're tapping because they're getting cranked. This is why it is actually important that if you care about your training partners, you do tell them that was more of a crank than a tap. And if you're the type that's gonna throw a little hissy fit and bitch and moan on Reddit like a little baby back bitch because people in your gym are saying that was more of a crank than a tap, you need to quit jiu-jitsu and go home and play video games by yourself. because I want people to tell me when I am cranking on them and not tapping them with the choke. Because when I go to a tournament, I am now thinking, I know how to do this. But you don't. And this is exactly what happened in this match. Is I was in this girl's guard, and I was on top, and she was in bottom guard. I was in her closed guard. And her coach is going, cross collar, because I'm up on points. She wouldn't have won otherwise. So her coach is telling her, and I start acting it up, because I know only 0.5% of cross collar chokes from bottom will end a match at the white belt level. Thank you. I read that on statistical analysis somewhere. But anyway, they don't work. They don't. And I know because I've been there. And I started playing it up. I'm like, I'm up on points. I've only got 2 minutes left. I got 2 minutes left. So I know I am past the hot mark. I am past the hot mark where I can get submitted. So I start going, I play it up. I'm acting. I am acting in a jiu-jitsu match. I'm going, because I want this girl to think she's got me. So she's really blowing her load to get this, and her coach is egging her on. This is one of the reasons I don't like people helping me, because a lot of people don't understand these numbers like I do. She wasted a ton of time doing this and a ton of energy, and sure enough, she gets to a point where she starts looking for something else, and I start acting like I'm dead, and I expose my neck a little on purpose, and I go right back to it. It burned me enough time to win the match because I knew more about tournament jiu-jitsu than her black belt instructor. Now, am I saying I know more about jiu-jitsu than him? No. I know there are probably going to be black belts watching this who are basically hitting their head against the wall and they got a gun to their head. Stop it, Molly! I know more than you or I'll kill myself. Admit it! Because there's some black belts that are really like that, and it's sad. But the truth is, there's a huge difference in gym jiu-jitsu and tournament jiu-jitsu, and this is why it's important you find yourself a coach that competes, and then you can have your instructor to teach you how to do these moves. The next thing I want to talk about, training with intent. What does that mean? There's a few different ways to roll, and I can spot how people roll because I pay very close attention to how people roll with me. There's the ego rollers. These are the people that will flow roll with you until they start to lose, and then it now becomes a death match. There's the people who roll strictly for fun, and they never really go above 50% because they're just there to have fun and kind of socialize, maybe learn a little jiu-jitsu. There's people that like to learn. That is me. Training with intent is what you want. How do you train with intent? Well, the first thing you need to know is you're still going to want to be doing what they're doing in class. Don't disrespect your instructor by... If you're going to do this, talk to your instructor first. Because I did this at Cornerstone. Hi, Charlie, if you see this. I love you and I miss you. Talk to your instructor and make sure they know that sometimes you just may not be interested in really doing move of the day. And I did this when I was a white belt because I had a lot of trouble learning two different things at one time. Now, going back, I regret this, and I wish I participated more in the move of the day, not to learn, because I don't learn that way. Maybe you do. But more so because looking back, I feel it was maybe a little disrespectful, or it could have been perceived that way. I don't think he probably took it that way, because my coach was cool. My coach was really cool, and I miss him a lot. So, training with intent means you're coming to the school, and you're doing the move of the day, and you're paying attention. But when it comes time to roll, you are doing guard pulls, breaking guard, side control to mount, and arm bars. End of list. That's all you need to know to win white belt tournaments. Guess how I know? So, when you roll, you're going to pull guard with intent. You're going to actually pull guard on these people. And if it's a higher belt, which it should be a lot of the time, if it's a higher belt, and you pull guard and it doesn't work, ask them, what did I do wrong here after the roll? Don't think about the submission. Don't think about you getting submitted. It's a purple belt, a blue belt, a whatever. They're going to submit you. They're going to do whatever they want to you, and they're going to allow you to work. Do not get your ego twisted in thinking you're actually submitting these people, because you are not. Do not get your ego twisted and think you are actually passing these people guard, because chances are you are not. They are allowing you to work, and it is important that you take advantage of these people's generosity in allowing you to work, to ask them what you're doing wrong. Because after the roll, you may have forgot. So before they go on to the next training program, say, can I ask you something real quick? When I pulled guard, when I pulled my leg up, you just kind of pushed it aside. What did I do wrong there? They may not know. This is where you can go ask your instructor. Your instructor knows these things. Your instructor is the master of technique. Your coach is the master of what to learn. So you'll go to your instructor or whoever. I love my coach, so I go to him often. Dude, it's just the other day with body locks. I'm working body locks right now. That's my big focus. So, I said, I got my body lock on you. You framed on me, and I couldn't get my leg over like I saw. What should I do? He's like, well, try grabbing one of the arms. Sure enough, it's been working for me. Thank you, coach. Thank you, instructor. So, it's very important that you roll with intent. There's a time and place for fun rolling, and those are open mats. But you can also use those for intent too. Personally, I use people that I know I can beat to fun roll. Because for me personally, I hate feeling like a bully on the mats more than anything. I shouldn't have to worry about it, but I do. Because the first school I went to, they hazed me and they abused me really, really bad. So now I've got a weird mentality about how I roll with people that are a little bit worse than me. So when you roll with people better than you, you're going to roll with intent. Don't muscle. Make yourself never use more than 50 to 70% energy. Because when you go to these tournaments, I keep pointing over here. Sorry guys, I'm looking at my chart. When you go to these tournaments, you're not going to blow your whole load right away, so you can't do it in the gym. If you do, you're not going to last the whole match. You're going to last the whole day. Because these things last a long time. So, roll with intent. No fun rolling. Save the fun rolling for people that are worse than you. Next page. Next slide. This is important. Track who blocks what with you. So you need to keep track of who in the gym is good at preventing you from pulling guard. Who in the gym is good at, once you pull guard, stopping you from transitioning and sweeping them. Personally, this is the way I like to do it because I don't know why, but it's just so easy to sweep white belts in guard. I even found myself in tournaments having a really easy time sweeping people in the guard. I think it's because when you start pulling on people, they posture far back, and white belts aren't good at the hip bump sweep, or they don't do it often. I think the hip bump sweep is probably the best sweep you can probably learn for white belt tournaments because you're going to be pulling guard. I didn't even touch on that, but the hip bump sweep is probably going to be critical for your white belt tournaments. Track who blocks what with you and troubleshoot with these people. Now this goes beyond asking them what happened here. Troubleshooting will be, okay, so I'll go to my coach Topper and I'll go, okay, well I got your arm locked, now what happens? They'll go, well I'll do this. And go, okay, so I should do this? And you come back the next day with something new. You keep coming back to these people and you build onto it. You don't just stop doing the move and go on to the next move when you can hit it a couple times on people. You keep doing the move until you can hit it on everyone because you're fighting for tournaments. You're not going to win tournaments being mediocre at everyone. Think about it. You play competitive video games. How many people do you know that get Diamond 1 with Flex their first time? No, that doesn't happen. The only people who've reached Diamond 1 flexing are people who've been playing for over 10 years like me, because back in the day you had to. Nowadays we know better and we know you focus on one thing at a time. So maybe you get really good with Shako or whoever I don't know, I haven't played the game in forever, but you get good at one thing and you skyrocket your way to the top. And then when you get to the top with whatever is the current meta, then you can start branching out a little and learning different things. So you're gonna get good at guard pulling, you're gonna get good at the hip bump, you're gonna get good at these specific things. Next. This is gonna be controversial, but I don't care. You're going to look your opponents up on SmoothCom. You're gonna see how they're winning. Are they submitting their opponents? Are they winning off of points? This is important. No, this is critical information. If you can find out, my smooth comp is private, so should be yours. Because if you look at people's profiles, you can see how they roll. And not only that, you can see who they're beating. So if I'm going up against someone and let's say I'm going up against a girl named Amanda. I look up her smooth comp and I see she's won all of her matches by points. That tells me, just off of pure statistical analysis, there's a really good chance this girl is going to win the match on time. So that means that she's probably good at conserving energy. She probably has clean technique, but she's probably a conservative roller. If she's winning all her matches this way. So that tells me I have to win this match early. So, you pull guard, you blow your whole load early. You're not going to run into many people who win all their matches on tournaments, but having this information is critical. Likewise, if you go up against a girl that's winning all her matches with submissions, you know she's an early winner. You know this is a girl that's probably going to blow her whole load at the start of a match. So you really, that or she's smurfing, sandbagging, or lying, cheating, whatever you want to call it. It's all the same. Personally, if you've been a white belt over 2 years and you're still competing in white belt, you're a cheater in my eyes. I don't care that you quit. No one cares that you quit. It should be based off of time. But getting a little off topic there. Point is, research your opponents heavily. Gotta go to class here soon. Check YouTube. Pull them up on YouTube. Check their Facebook. Check their Instagram. Check their school's page. What are people in their school winning with? Is there an overarching theme? Is there a set move they're all doing? Watch people from their school's matches. Are they all pulling guard the same way? How are they passing guard? Do you really want to win? Or do you want to sit around and watch the new Obi-Wan Kenobi TV show? If you want to win, stop throwing your life away watching Obi-Wan Kenobi and get on YouTube and start watching your opponent's matches and your opponent's gyms to see how they're passing guard, see how they're doing arm bars. Find out what they're doing wrong. It's going to be hard because you're a white belt. It's going to take a lot of analysis, but you can do it. There's one school I won't name. I beat this girl really easily because I knew exactly how she was going to pass guard. So I went on YouTube and I looked up the counter for it, and sure enough, I hit her with it the very second she went to pass my guard. And this is the unfortunate truth, which is most schools are going to teach you to pass guard the way the teacher likes. Most schools are going to teach you to pass guard the way the instructor likes, and they're not going to be up to date on the right ways to do it. So it's going to be very easy, if you choose to and you really want to win, to just go find out how they do it and look up the counter. This holds especially true if you're a woman, because you're probably only going to have 2-3 people to go up against tops. And if you're a colored belt, it's probably going to be 1 or 2 people. So it's pretty easy to go research these people. Just like you wouldn't say the UFC, go watch what they do. This is no different. Search who they beat. Go a step further. Do you really want to win? Look up who they play against. This is why it's important to have a private profile. If I'm going up against Amanda, and Amanda lost to Jackie, I don't know, Karen, whoever, I will put in the person she went up against's name on YouTube, and maybe I can find the match against her. I did this against one girl who I went up against. I had to throw the match because their school was threatening me if I didn't. Like, actually threatening me. It's just one of the things I deal with. And sure enough, I knew exactly what she was going to do. She walks at you real quick and tries to intimidate you. I pulled guard on her. It worked like a charm. I reached over and I got my Kimura. I let it go because I knew what would happen. I didn't want to deal with the drama if I beat her because I was there alone and everything. Point still stands. I was able to look up online and knew exactly what she was going to do, and sure enough, she did it. And I was right. So, look up your opponents. Look how they roll against their opponents. And more importantly, this is the big takeaway here. Watch how they're pacing themselves in the match. Because in white belt matches, almost everyone blows their load to win their matches. Now, if you've watched this far and it's your first match, I have bad news for you. You're probably going to lose anyway. Because that first match, I don't know why, it just doesn't go well. And in my statistical analysis, I did my best. I probably missed a bunch, but I did my best to not count matches that were first round matches, as in your first tournament ever, someone's first tournament ever, because people just lose those matches. They freeze up. It happened to me, happened to most of these women I watched. Now guys may be different, I don't know. I think that's it, really. This is what you need to know if you really want to win your matches. So, what's the big takeaway from this hour-long video? What are the really important things? You need a coach that competes. This may not even be someone at your school. They may be at another school. They may be at a rival school, but you need to be friends with the people in your town that compete. You need to network with these people. Be on good terms with them. Do not run your mouth to these people at tournaments. Do not be that idiot at these tournaments that are running your mouth. Be friends with these people. Talk to them. Cheer them on. Give your opponents advice. Give people from other schools advice. Don't do it in a condescending way. But I made friends here at this event because I was telling people, I saw some white belts and be like, hey, don't get stuck in closed guard. Stand up if you got to. Get out of it. Don't get stuck in closed guard no matter what you do, because that's where you're going to lose. So, have yourself a coach. Have an instructor. And your instructor should almost always be the black belt at your school, because it's very disrespectful for it not to be. And not just on principle. I do not give a crap about social principles or social constructs. I'm talking about it's disrespectful to say you've been doing this for 20 years so you don't understand how to do jiu-jitsu. Now, if you had a medical doctor, if your doctor got their degree 20 years ago, or 10 years, we'll say 10 years ago even, and they haven't read a single piece of literature since then, do you want this person operating on you? No. Probably want the guy who's staying up to date and fresh, even if they're newer and I don't have as many years experience. I would listen to Nicky Rod tell me what to do any day of the week when he was a blue belt than I would a coral belt. Hello? Coral belts don't compete. Not really. But they're probably going to know more about technique than Nicky Rod. So, that's a really big takeaway. The next thing, out of all these moves, you got to get good at guard pull and you got to get good at arm bars. Stop wasting your time on Kimuras. Stop wasting your time on omoplatas. Personally, I think the omoplata is really good from closed guard as a white belt. Once you get good at it, because it's very conservative, it's very easy to recognize when someone's posturing back up. You just close your guard. Andrew Wiltsey, the Daisy Fresh omoplata, is very good for learning how to omoplata. It's about an hour and a half, 3 hours long tops. 3 parts. It's beautiful. It'll teach you how to omoplata. It's direct and to the point. It's easy to understand. You'll be omoplatoing people in no time, and it works. I could hit. I'm not going to go too much into it because I don't want anyone to feel like I'm hurting their ego. But the last school I was at, I could really hit a lot of people with this omoplata. And I hit it in this tournament, actually. I hit it twice. I didn't finish it. They stepped over me. I just on the purple belt. She got out of it. I'm getting off topic. I'm sorry. This video is going on long enough. So, guard pulls, arm bars, playing guard for your hip bump sweep, because you're going to pull guard. You got to know how to get them to the ground. The first 30 seconds of the match are critical if you're a blue belt. Even not so much, even if you're a white belt, it's going to be crucial that you don't get taken down, and if they're going to take you down, you just sit down. And then you can stand back up, usually. 3-minute mark. That's where almost all submissions happen, is before the 3-minute mark. Why is this important? I didn't really touch too heavily on this, and I should talk about this more. If I'm in a match, and I see I'm at the 3-minute mark, and I have 8 points, I can confidently say to myself, at a white belt level, I can confidently say to myself, I got this match in the bag. I just have to not lose the dominant position and let this person score 1,000,000 points on me. So generally what I'll do is when I get to about the 2-minute and 30-second mark, I will think to myself, can I get to mount from here? If I can get to mount, I'll go for it. If I can do it safely. And if I can get to mount, I'm immediately thinking, I gotta get S mount right now. If I don't have S mount by the 2-minute, 30-second mark, I'm not thinking of submissions. I'm thinking of points. I'm thinking, how can I make sure this girl does not score points on me? How can I stall this match out as long as possible? Because that's what you want to do. Do you care about having a fun and exciting match in a highlight reel? Or do you care about having a wall of medals? Do you care about being the winner? Because I promise you, No one remembers who pulls guard in years. What they remember is who has the medals. Who won? There are little asterisks on people's Instagram profiles. World's gold medalist. Blah, 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 blah. I'm a Naga state champion. Which I am. It's just funny, you know? Like, they have all these stupid titles on their profile, but there's no asterisk saying, but I won pulling guard. But I won off of points. But I won because I stalled the match. No one remembers this stuff. What they remember is who won. And I used to be against it at first. I was actually really against it at first. But the more I did jiu-jitsu, the more I realized, that's the game, baby. You gotta play the game. Don't hate the player, hate the game. You admiring the trophies? You admiring me winning? I don't care, because I'm the winner. History remembers the winners. So, think about that. It's a lot to think about, I know. Train with intent. Make sure when you're rolling with people, you're asking them after. You caught me with that. Would you mind doing that again real slow so I can see it? And after you get caught on something, like let's say you're doing the arm bars, you're working your arm bars, you can't get it, you're done rolling for the day. Stop rolling so you don't get your head filled with other nonsense and go home and study. Study what you got wrong. Are you wanting to win? Or are you wanting to have fun? Winning is the most fun you can have. So it's important. You don't just roll to roll. And I think it's also important you don't roll every round too. I think it's important you take a round off every single round, assuming you're not doing like a cardio bust. Because you want that round in between to really sit there and think, what did I do right and what did I do wrong? And also give you a chance to write down, if you really want to try hard, how the roll went. I keep a spreadsheet with everything. I may put a screenshot of it here, of everything I do in the gym. So, then track who hits you with what, because there's going to be people in your gym that are really good at certain things. This is going to give you the opportunity. This is why traveling is important. Everyone says, yeah, I like traveling. It's good to go to other schools' open mounts because, you know, you really get to test yourself and see different rolling styles. Like, they're right, but the unfortunate truth is most people are too dumb and too lazy to really do that. Most people are just ego rolling. And you can feel it because when you visit a school, a lot of people are just trying to kill you. Shout out to Tony in Raleigh, North Carolina. Tony has an amazing school. I loved visiting his school, and there were no ego rollers in the whole school. I had a great time visiting it, and never got crushed. Visited some other schools, didn't have the same experience. Definitely felt the egos. But Tony and I guess Lucas Lepre did a good job raising him because he's got a great school. Next thing is ask your coach for advice on what techniques to learn, your instructor on how to do them, and be really creepy. Be really creepy and stalk your opponents on Smooth Comp and Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and blah, 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 blah. Find out everything you can about your opponents to see what you can use against them. So that's it. This is how I won my tournaments. This is how I got an 88% win rate when I was a white belt. It's because I did all this stuff for every single tournament I did. And, you know, I posted my first tournament on Instagram and it felt kind of, I don't know why, I just didn't feel right doing it. So I never did it again. And I feel like doing that kind of stuff takes away from it. I deactivated my Instagram because I think it's a distraction. I think when you're doing this, you start comparing yourself to other people, and that's not good. It's very important to stay grounded in what's going to win you these matches. And when you start looking at other people, that's not going to happen. That's it. If you have any questions, post them in the comments, because I know a lot about winning white belt tournaments. I know a lot about winning white belt tournaments. And I am very good friends with some people who also know a lot about spamming white belt tournaments. I'm friends with people, one guy, he's got over 50 white belt matches in the past 100 days. This guy is a killer, and I talked to him a good bit. I think he's got the most matches on Smooth Comp right now. So, yeah. Lapel and Chimeras are good too, but arm bars. Am I missing anything? I don't think I am. This video just hit an hour. Can't believe I just ranted for an hour about white belt tournaments. Who'd think a white belt tournament could be so complicated? But they are. And there's a lot you can take away from it. And a lot of people think, white belt tournaments, you know, they're so silly. They are silly because you're not doing so much jiu-jitsu as you are a tournament. And it's very important to get your tournament reps in at the white belt level, as many as you can, so when you get to a blue belt level, you're not learning how to do tournament jiu-jitsu and tournaments. That's a lot to take in. When you get to the blue belt level, you're going to be unleashed against the world. You're going to be put up against wrestlers, judokas. Everyone on the planet can compete at a blue belt level. You could end up going up against someone that just won the Olympics for judo or wrestling in a blue belt tournament. And I'm so glad I'm out in North Carolina, because I knew I was on a fast track to fight one of the best girls in the world at Jiu-Jitsu, Julia Salata, and she would have massacred me. Kind of wish I could have got to, because it would have been a real honor to fight her. But when you get to blue belt, I'm telling you, it gets serious. So it's very important when you're a white belt, you learn how to do tournaments. And it's a lot more than just getting the tournament jitters out. As you can see, it's a lot more. You have to learn how to pace yourself. You have to learn how to keep track of the time in the match. You have to also learn how to keep track of your points if you're going by yourself. Because I have not had the luxury of having a team support me. I have gone to almost every single one of these tournaments completely by myself with no coach to keep the referee in line. There was one tournament that I almost lost because I didn't get the points I deserved. So it's important. I have learned now, so when I get mount, I'll go 1, 2, 3, and then a lot of times I'll look up at the ref, give him a side eye to see if I got my points. And if not, I will stay there until I do, because it's important you do not lose these positions or your points. Because as we talked about, most of these tournaments are won by points. And especially if it's going to be a good match, it's probably going to come down to points. So that's it. I'm going to stop rambling. This has been an hour. I may do a follow-up video with more information. I have more videos I want to make. I want to make one on training with autism, because it is a superpower. I am telling you, once you learn how to harness it, you're gonna be so much better than a lot of people. There's a lot of stuff I want to talk about on this channel, and now that I don't have Instagram distracting me, I've deactivated my Instagram because it was such a huge distraction. I think I'm going to do a lot more YouTube stuff, because there's a lot of stuff I want to talk about in Jiu-Jitsu that I think is really important that a lot of people aren't talking about. Because I don't know if it's people are scared to hurt people's feelings, or they're scared to talk about against their master or whatever. But I mean, this is just the truth, and it's just the way things are. And the more you know, the better off you're going to be, especially as a newbie. Because information is power, and StarCraft 2 is a good example. If you don't know a build order in StarCraft 2, you're probably going to be stuck in bronze or silver your whole life. You'll be lucky to get to gold if you don't learn a build order. But as soon as you know build orders, you can probably get the gold or platinum. Maybe even diamond off just knowing the build order, not even really knowing the game. This is the same way. If you learn all this stuff, you can really grind out some tournaments that people wouldn't expect you to win. So that's it. Pop your questions down, and I'll do my best to answer them. If I don't know them, I'll ask my coach. And if my coach doesn't know them, I'll ask my instructor. And that's it. One last thing I want to add to this video. If you live in a more remote place and you still want to crush these tournaments, you're going to need outside sources. These are my suggestions. I know they're a little expensive, but this is what you need. You really need this. In order of importance, and there is absolutely an order of importance. Number 1 is going to be John Danaher's Go Further Faster, Pins and Escapes. This is where you're going to learn how to do the stand-up I was talking about, where you do this to bait the arm, you grab the arm, you go to stand up. He's going to teach you how to stand up at a guard. He's going to teach you how to get out of side control. He's going to teach you how to get out of mount. That's a really good one. The first move he teaches you is so crucial. So that's the first one I would suggest. The second one is Craig Jones' Power Top. Power Top is going to teach you how to keep the top position. He's going to teach you position before submission for real. Everyone says this, but no one talks about what it means. He does. I won my first match in this very tournament because of Power Top. I did his half Nelson exactly as he showed it, and I was able to break that girl down all the way and take her back. I probably would have won anyway off of points, but it works. I also won one of my matches because of Nikki Rod's Roddy Lock. I am obsessed with the body lock right now. I won't go into it too much, a little advanced for white belts, but that move is sick. The body lock is so sick. After those two, the only other one you're really going to need is John Danaher's Enter the System arm bars. That's going to teach you everything you need to know about arm bars, how to get into arm bars, how to hold an arm bar if people go to stand up, how to knock them back down on their butt when you got them in an arm bar. I'll teach you everything you need to know, because that's the only submission you really need to know for white belt tournaments. And honestly, arm bars are the highest percentage and most hit submission from white belt all the way up to ADCC. So there you go. I'm not counting the rear naked choke because that doesn't count for white belt tournaments, because if you get someone's back, you're probably going to win anyway. All right, that's it. If you disagree with my instructional suggestions, you better have a good reason why. And I want to hear why. I want to hear the exact reason why, not because this is better. Be specific. Tell me specifically why. I want to know why so I can go watch it. Because I have over 150 instructionals and I have watched 63 of them. That's a lot. I've watched them all the way, 63 all the way through. And probably a dozen of those I've watched 4 or 5 times all the way through. I really enjoy instructionals. So if you have any better suggestions, let me know. We can talk about it. I think I might do an entire video on instructionals. I may start reviewing instructionals on this channel. I think that might be what I turn this channel into, because I thoroughly enjoy instructionals. I watch instructionals like most people watch TV shows. So when I tell you to get John Danaher's Go Further Faster, Pins and Escapes, to get Craig Jones's Power Top, if you're not a white belt, before even those, I would get Nikki Rod's Roddy Lock and Power Top. Probably Power, if you're a colored belt, probably Power Top first, and then the Roddy Lock, and then Lachlan's Body Lock. All right, that's it. Bye-bye. Time for class.